My name is Haley Brown, and I am currently a senior studying biology at the University of Arkansas. As I live in Fayetteville, the artwork I chose to study is Indian Detour by John Sloan and is currently located at the Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art as part of their Changing Perspectives of Native Americans exhibit. This artwork is a 6 by 7 1/4 inch etching created in 1927 and satirically portrays the Harvey Indian Tour of 1926. John Sloan did not have a traditional introduction to the art world. Due to his father's inept skill as a salesman, Sloan had to drop out of high school at the age of 16 to help support his family. It was during this time that Sloan trained himself how to etch from the Etcher's Handbook. He then began working at A. Edward Newton, where he gained the opportunity to design and sell his own etchings. Although limited, his formal art training officially began in 1890 when he took night drawing classes at the Spring Garden Institute and continued at the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts. From 1905 to 1906, Sloan created his most renowned work, a series of 10 etchings entitled New York City Life. Inspired by the working class people, Sloan struggled to hide his socialist views after witnessing many of his subjects' injustices. In 1920, Sloan purchased a summer home in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where he found his new muse in the Pueblo culture. Sloan differentiated himself by focusing on depicting the Native Americans with a respectful plainness quality. By 1923, Sloan had intimately interacted with the ritual of Native American dances for several of his artworks, and became horrified at the government's proposal to ban Indian dancing, leading to his most notable creation of Indian Detour. As a whole, the image appears extremely crowded. However, it is evident that the main focus of Indian Detour is the Pueblo Indians performing their ritualized dance. This is due to the use of line and shading. Sloan utilizes a series of implied diagonal lines, such as in the roofs of the buses, to move the viewer's eye to eventually settle on the Native Americans. The sloping lines forming the mountains in the background work in a similar manner. Furthermore, Sloan utilizes cross-hatching to give a sense of depth to the image. This shading also denotes the significance of specific areas of the etching by deliberately adding or omitting detail. This is most evident in the lack of detail on the ground surrounding the Indians' feet, effectively contrasting the detailed shading in the dancing figures and serving to emphasize the ritualized dance. Whereas, the increased presence of darker values in the observing mass of people draws the viewer's eye away from rather than into the subject matter. Indian Detour can be analyzed by the deconstruction methodology. This analytical method focuses on questioning the natural assumptions typically present in binary pairs that highlight dualities in human thought, belief, and social organization. In Sloan's image, several of these binary pairs can be identified such as light and dark, natural and industrial, and civilized and uncivilized. However, each duality presents a certain deviance from popular opinion. Where shading is concerned, the darker values are present primarily in the crowd of intrusive observers, denoting their sinister nature, and the lighter, natural gray values are reserved for the Pueblo Indians. The industrial buses, poised at attention in their semicircle to illuminate the natural spectacle, exude an intrusive sensation. This leads the observer to question the final duality, civilized and uncivilized. During this time period, Americans believed that Native Americans needed to be homogenized to Western culture. However, by depicting the observing crowd as menacing and their industrial technology as intrusive, Sloan makes the viewer question which group of people are actually civilized. Realism is a style of art that attempts to depict the subject matter as it appears in reality, rather than in a distorted manner. Indian Detour belongs to this movement due to the fact that the representations of the humans, landscape, and inanimate objects appear to be realistic. Sloan utilizes biomorphic lines to create shapes with a sense of life and movement, such as in the buses, to give the illusion of life. While the buses are a realistic interpretation, this slightly stylized and lifelike quality serves to highlight the image's ultimate satirical message. As Indian Detour has a satirical undertone, Daumier can be looked to as Sloan's historical influence. Like Sloan, Daumier often conveyed satirical content, portrayed lifelike, realistic figures, and utilized a strong contrast between light and dark in his creations. A Daumier oil painting that depicts both realism and the utilization of shading is Third Class Carriage from 1862. I originally chose to study Indian Detour because I was fascinated by the extreme amount of activity in the image, and because, regardless of where I initially looked, my eyes were always drawn to the Pueblo Indians. My true appreciation for the piece stems from the artist's use of satire concerning the Harvey Indian Tour. To counter his horror at this perverse entertainment, Sloan expresses a sensation of intrusion cast not only by the spectators but also by the inanimate objects present. Specifically, how the buses seem to create a stage where one should not exist. The intrusive theme compels viewers not only to sympathize with the Native Americans, but also fosters the desire to help and protect them. While these feelings are socially acceptable today, at that time, Indian Detour would have been revolutionary for engendering these sentiments. Personally, I don't find art to be valuable unless it invokes such a response. That being said, I find this etching to be extremely precious and unique, not only for the successful emotional response, but also because Sloan had the tenacity to create a compelling, realistic image that had the potential to shatter people's perspectives.